And all right. Good evening, good afternoon, or good morning from wherever you are watching this from. Pleasure to have you back again. And while we are getting ready for the rest of our group to join us, I would like you to have two things on hand if you could. The first is this is going to be a lesson done on lying on your side, particularly the right side. But I want you to know that I am not a stickler about making it only the right side. If you have issues lying on your right side, you can lie on your left. So I want to open that availability up for you. But here's the first thing you need. If you have lying around any of these, I have something called like garden pads. And what I do is I put these garden pads at a certain level, and it allows me to keep my head in the midline of my body. Okay. So the other thing, if you don't have such a thing, I'll tell you what else works is a great big bath towel that you can put into thirds. Okay. And so that it looks like a long board. All right. So that's the other thing that you're going to need tonight. All right. So we can put it and rest the side of our head and our ear on a big old bath towel would be great. Now, the second thing, if you have available to you, is this is kind of interesting. I have two regular pillows that I would sleep on. Okay. So grab a couple of those. And if you don't, if you have those, that would be great. But if you have this, I want to show Gail, if you could show, I'm going to add you. Now, I asked Gail if she had like, this is a couch cushion. All right. So this couch cushion, she can take it off. And what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to use pillows or a cushion to develop a self strategy of care so that you don't hurt yourself during the night or during this lesson tonight. And this self-care strategy I call raising the floor. Okay, raising the floor to meet your unique need. So as Gail's going to demonstrate, I'm going to put this cushion in different places. I'm going to put it above your head. I could put it in front of you, or I could put it behind you as well. So with this cushion placed behind you, it provides a support for the arm. It goes right along your backside, right above your gluteal cleft or your waist. She tucks it right underneath her. And that she is going to be able to rest her hand behind her in a very, I would say, comfortable way, but a way that will allow the target tissue that we are trying to really help become more available for function. All right. So if you wouldn't mind getting something of those two natures, that would be so helpful. Now, some of you have the capacity that you can just want to stick your arm like you're sleeping, but your hand under your head instead of having the towel. You could do that. And it's not bad, but I got to tell you, I got something special for you. So I would love to have the bottom arm free. Okay. And you'll, in just a moment, you'll see why I want that free. Okay, great. All right. So giving you a chance to get those two things. And tonight's lesson, I'm really torn about what to name this. There's one part of me functionally wants to name it wiping your butt with ease. Okay, because wiping your butt is a real functional movement pattern that when you lose it, it makes a difference. Okay. And also I can name this as, you know, restoring the bridges in the body. Okay. So as you start to assemble those, I'm just going to go ahead and talk and give you some visuals so that when you replay this back, or that when you hear me say some unique things throughout this lesson, they become a little bit more available. Last week's lesson, lesson number 3, was about restoring the dysfunctional relationship between the upper and the lower cervical spine, okay? Which I believe is probably one of the most dysfunctional relationships at the core of many, many poor dysfunctional movement patterns, all right? Because the nervous system only chooses and can only select that which it has availability for. So if the lower spine isn't available for the motions of being able to assist us and carry our head during balance activities, it will have some other strategy, okay? So tonight's strategy is about looking at restoring this dysfunctional movement pattern from the bottom up. Lesson 3 was about rolling the head and restoring the dysfunction from a top down. Now we're going to come from the bottom up, and we're going to use our lollipops, okay? You remember that the 5 cardinal lines, we had 2 arm lollipops. And these 2 arm lollipops, in particular, we're going to learn how we can utilize the movement of our lollipop that fits into this dotted area is our shoulder blade. But this area right here that I'm drawing this arrow to, this is the bridge of the arm lollipop, or the arm cardinal line, to the vertical cardinal line. There has to be a communication between these 2 lines, okay? And that communication, or this bridge, is called your collarbone, all right? Your collarbone. The collarbone, or the clavicle, is the bridge that connects these 2 cardinal lines, one on one side and of course on the other side. And when we start to have this bridge available, then what can happen is the lower cervical spine and what is involved here in movement can start to have a different response. So let me show you just a little visual of what I'm talking about, of what the nervous system feels is available or not. Now you're going to be looking at an image, a face on. So the face is no longer here, but this is like the throat area. Here is your breastbone, and here is one clavicle or collarbone. It has been removed on this side. Now, attached to this collarbone is a muscle called the SCM, or steatocleidomastoid, and it's going all the way up to the base of your ear, behind your ear bone. And its job is to help turn, to roll the head. But when this has to start to stabilize the neck, then you start to get into problems. Now, lying underneath this area is a whole bunch of these little thread-like muscles that are coming to every cervical vertebra. Look at that. And these are called the scalene muscles, and they're in groups and they attach to ribs. So when we start to heal this bridge, we allow communication of what we do through our arm to reach here to the bottom of our neck, or we allow the head to reach and pass information out to the arm. So in one sense, we are going to restore the bridge of communication between our lollipop arm and our vertical cardinal line. Imagine what this could do for people, not just with pain, but this is like our throat center of communication, creativity, how we speak, our voice, our singing, what we create out through our hands, what we take in to our system. So it's a highway of a very higher level of organization. All right. So this is this has the potential to do a lot of wonderful things. All right. So let's do a couple of reference tests to see what your capacity of your harmony between the upper and lower cervical spine is before we start. Okay. So come to standing. And one of the things that we did last time in standing is that we allowed this quality of thinking. And I want you to think of that last lesson. I want you to think of rolling the head, and I want you to watch me first, okay? Because as I think of letting my head roll, like I'm rolling my head between my hands, do you see how there's this line or this muscle sticking out, right? That is that sternocleidoid mastoid that's connecting the root of how this whole arm is attached right here. This is its only attachment. Your hand, your arm is only attached, and they are connected through this muscle with what's going on between the base of the ear and at the root or the end of the collarbone. All right. So, what's your capacity to allow the head? You don't have to use your hands, but what's your capacity to allow the head to roll and allow it to? We're not just looking or turning to see behind us. I mean, that's obvious a output of this, but it's like the quality of turn. Good. Now, as you come back to the center, I want you to take your fingertips of each hand and I want you to put them, this is the base of my throat, and at the base of my throat, or this little dip in the collarbone, all right, in the base of the breastbone, on either side is going to be my collarbone. If you just hold some fingers right there at the end of your collarbone where it's fitting into your sternum, and then allow yourself to make this turn. You might feel something bubble up underneath your fingers. You might even feel some cracking or popping, some gristly kind of movement into that area if you've had some injury. All right, let that go. Now, bring your hands up to like parallel to the screen, elbows are hanging down. And I want to see what your capacity is to raise the right arm up into the ceiling. And then you come back down. And then we do that again, raising the arm up into the ceiling. You can do it a couple more times and notice what the ease of getting the arm up, the shoulder blade sliding. Some people may even start to feel, now that we've highlighted something here in the front of their throat area, that, oh, that's there's some movement that could be there. Mhm. The shoulder blade actually moves separately from the ribs. It's not like this skeletal model here that has tacks or wires attached to the ribs. There's nothing really attaching that shoulder blade except for this attachment right here. Okay, good. Now let that go and come to lie on your right side down. And just a reminder, if you would not like any of recording you visually on the recording, just go ahead and turn off your video camera. And I'm just going to spotlight a few folks, and we'll get a chance to see some different variety of the movement. Not that one is right or wrong, it just provides us with a different image. that can help kind of clarify. All right, so you're lying on your right side down, and you draw your knees up in such a way that it feels comfortable to lie there on your side. And it almost looks like, if I were looking at you, that you were sitting somewhat in a chair, more chair-like. So your knees and hips don't have to be quite at 90-90. And take their time to adjust so that you can put something underneath the side of your right side of your face, so your neck is supported. Okay. And allow your left hand to drape across your left pelvis, the side of your left pelvis. And so the fingers kind of hang off the pelvis a little bit. That's right. Mhm. And a couple of times, I would like you to start to move your shoulder forward. Now, forward here is toward the wall in front of you, or the center of your room, or if you're facing the camera, it would be toward the camera. But as though that you would be doing the hokey pokey. You put your left shoulder in, you take your left shoulder back, if you have that reference. So you move it forward and you move it back. Forward and back, just a few times. Right? And you keep your lower arm in one place so that it's just the wrist is in one place. You're just moving the shoulder. Forward and back. That's right. Now, you may notice as you start to move forward and return that the face itself starts to roll, like the nose would roll towards the floor. All right, that's okay for right now. Okay, let that go. Now, take your left hand and put it somewhere in front of you so that your hand is on the floor in front of you, palm down, fingers facing away from your body. And I want you to slide your hand away from your body so that it kind of straightens your elbow a little bit. All right. So we're going to leave the elbow um, relatively straight, and it's going to be passive. But most people, they notice that when they start to straighten their elbow, all of a sudden that shoulder starts to fold or dip or fall in towards the face and the neck and the ear. Can you organize that hand and the placement of where the hand is so that the shoulder doesn't fall into the neck? All right. There you go. That's better. That's right, Leslie. And so begin to slide the hand away from you and then a little bit back towards you again. And when you come back towards you, go ahead, keep that elbow straight. And so that the palm is sliding away and then near you. Or another way of saying that is, it's the lollipop. The lollipop lengthens away from you, and then you draw the lollipop into you. That's right. And as you draw the lollipop away, you feel that the blade, your shoulder blade, is being drawn forward, and as you draw it back, the shoulder blade draws back. And for some of you, you start to get a clarity of, when my hand lengthens away from me, my face rolls towards the floor. And as I withdraw my hand, my face rolls towards the ceiling. Well, that's a nice move, but I'm going to be looking for something else tonight, okay? What if, pause in the middle, what if I ask your face to stay flush? The right side of your face stays flush with your pillow, okay? So that as the hand moves forward, so does the right side of the face and the ear slide forward, like towards the end of the pillow in a way. And as the arm or the hand retracts, the shoulder blade attracts, so too does the face kind of glide back. So you've got this rubbing or gliding of the right side of the face and the ear being carried back as the shoulder retracts and the head and the side of the face move forward. That's right. That's a very different move than rolling the head, isn't it? You have to kind of, oh, maybe lift the head just a smidgen of the ear from so that you could really feel the change in pressure. It's like a paintbrush and we're painting along the side of our face onto our pillow. Nice. That's it. All right, good. Now, let that go and bring your hand to be on your pelvis again. And a couple of times, just see if that movement had any qualitative change of allowing the shoulder to be carried forward and back, your little hokey pokey. All right, good. All right. Now, once again, bring that left hand to the floor out in front of you, elbow relatively straight. Same movement of just sliding the hand, lengthening it away from your body and toward your body. And I want you to start to spread your awareness out into the pelvis and the legs, the knees and the feet. So as you start to make this lengthening and retracting of that lollipop, you can start to get a sense that the torso does roll a little bit. But if there was the least amount of roll in the torso, like there was the least amount of roll in the head, as you do this movement, can you feel that the pelvis does roll? It's like you start to change kind of your contact on the right side of the pelvis and that top left knee. What? Feel that knee. Notice how the inside seams of your thighs start to kind of rub along each other so that the top left knee moves just a skosh in front of the lower knee. And as you retract the hand back, so too does the top thigh. And of course, this movement of the thigh sliding forward and sliding back carries the pelvis, and that's what is helpful with the rolling of the pelvis, yeah? The next time you come to the middle, stop, leave your hand extended like that, and a couple of times, just begin to really clarify the inner thighs gliding, sliding. So let that top thigh begin to slide forward of the bottom and then retract back. And you're all doing an excellent job of really keeping your feet kind of nestled into one another as you make the action of sliding one thigh on top of the other. And notice that every time the thigh slides back, could the tailbone tuck a little bit more? Yeah. It's like the tailbone could actually tuck. And then as the slide of the thigh moves forward, it's like the tailbone untucks, as though to show me your rear end, as though that we would need that motion for sure if we were going to wipe our rear end, right? All right. And the next time the thighs come parallel to one another, pause. And a couple of times, let me just see how the hand lengthens, the lollipop lengthens, and from the body, carrying that lollipop arm away, allowing the thigh to move with it, lengthening. And there comes that rolling of the head again. Can you sense it? It wants to roll. But I'm going to ask for something. I'm going to say, instead of that roll, could the head be carried parallel like a tray along your pillow as the Hand slides away and to and fro as the thigh glides a little long, a little short, as though that you're carrying the head. That's right. Much better, Robin. That's it. Now you have it. It's a different move than rolling. Okay. Let that go. Place your left hand on your pelvis and give a little jiggle wiggle of that right shoulder, excuse me, of the left shoulder, and see if that has a little bit more freedom of the hokey pokey forward and back. Mhm. Good. Like the shoulder blade can now be felt in your ribs differently on your back. All right, good. Now let that all go and just roll and lie on your back. That's right. Taking a real full moment to integrate what is it that we're doing? How does movement of the shoulder forward and back talk to the collarbone? How does the head sliding rather than rolling during this movement ask something different of the vertebra, of the ribs? How does this movement that we're doing tonight begin to start to really actually change the muscular tone that's on the left side of your body versus the right? And like I said before, if this left side is not your favorite and you've chosen to lie on the right, then, excuse me, to have the right side up, then you will be able to experience similar changes, but on the other side. Mhm. Once again, come to lie on the right side down with your left hand on your pelvis. Now, I want you to explore something. We're going to see what it is. I don't want to say your capacity, but I guess it is your capacity to, as you lie there and you begin to, we're going to take the hand behind us. We're going to slide our hand a little bit off of our pelvis, our hip, our thigh, and start to go in the direction of our tailbone and to the floor. And then we're going to come right back up. So you're going to stay, the hand's going to stay actually pretty close to your bottom and in contact with your body at first. Okay. Now, you put your hand back on your pelvis. I want to tell you something. If that is at the least bit of strain for you or starts to flare something up, whether it's in your shoulder or in your neck or in your ribs or your armpit, then I am talking specifically to you that you need to raise the floor. And how we raise the floor is you're going to put that couch cushion or a couple of those head bed pillows behind your back so that it supports your back and that the floor now is at the level of the top of the cushion, because we're going to be doing some very special things that allow a new finding of movement without having to roll on your back to get there. There'll be some turning, but this is not a lesson about rolling onto your back, okay? So those of you who have old AC injuries, acromioclavicular injuries, rotator cuff diagnoses, forward head, um, radiation from cancer, um, oh, maybe you have broken your wrist. This is for you. Okay. So Manju, I am going to have you put that cushion right beside your back. Thank you. Good, good. If you have an old back injury, this will be remarkable down there in that SI area of old pain, Martin, that this might be helpful. So you'll get to choose what you're going to do. So begin to allow that left hand to slide off your pelvis and onto the floor behind you with your palm down. And so the fingers are on the floor behind you or are elevated or raised floor, right? So there's not a strain here. There's not a bind in the arm to do that. That's nice. So a couple of times, just take your arm away from your body and towards your body. Let's just start to see what that means to you. So and you can feel as you move away from it, it's so often the arm kind of moves more like in an arc or a circle. That is definitely one way to do that. But what if I say, let the arm palm down, stay behind you. And I want you to start to lengthen the lollipop, lengthen the arm, the elbow's relatively straight, and you start to lengthen the arm behind you. Not so much direction in the direction or plane of your butt, but to the mat behind you. Mhm. And you start to get a sense that as you lengthen and then retract that arm closer to your body and away from your body, similar move like we did in the front. That's right. It's a similar move. The hand stays away from the butt, Martin. It stays out to the side. And it's like a sliding motion of the arm sliding into the shoulder and then the arm sliding away and pulling the ball away from its socket. Mhm. All right. And then the next time your arm is out of that lengthened position, just pause and bring your hand back to that pelvis again. And a couple of times, let your left shoulder move behind you as though that you were doing a reversed hokey pokey, as though that the shoulder could move behind and get a sense that as the shoulder moves behind, there's some of you who will want to roll the face towards the ceiling. That is a way. You could try that. As the shoulder blade moves behind to the wall behind you, the nose can turn towards the ceiling. And then as you return back to home, it can come back and the right ear is on your pillow. That is a way. So let's try it the other way. What if, as you start to take the shoulder back behind you, that you slide the right side of your face and your ear so that your whole side of your head and that face is sliding along towards the end of your pillow. Mhm. So it's like you're carrying both of them with you. And you can't help but notice and feel that your inner thighs are gliding too. It's as though that top thigh that is gliding, retracting the pelvis and shortening the knee. Uh-huh. Good. And then the next time you come to your beginning point, the center, just pause, rest there for a moment. Now, let's see if the left arm can go even further behind you so that the fingers are pointing and the whole arm begins to point toward the wall behind you. Mhm. And from that place there, could you allow the lengthening of the lollipop arm towards the wall behind you and let your head be carried with you as you do that lengthening? And a couple of times as you start that lengthening and carrying the head, it's as though that you would want to tuck the pelvis underneath you, the tailbone underneath you as you make that movement at its longest. So that's it, Martin. So one of the things that we're doing, Manju, is not so much doing a snow angel. It's not making an arc. So if you let your whole arm go to not the end of your cushion, but to the side of your cushion, the width of your cushion. So slide your hand a little more, a little more. Nope, nope. Keep your hand right where it is, Manju. So if you're reading this on the replay, Manju, I'm going to have you put your hand, slide it back, if you can hear me. Now keep it right there. From that place right there, lengthen your arm towards the wall behind you, right there, and then let it shorten. There you go. And lengthen. And now her head carries. So if you're watching this on the replay, this is a very common thing. That's better. That's going to give you very different information. Lovely. And then when you're ready, you can bring your hand to rest on your pelvis. And a couple of times, just give me a little oscillation of that shoulder moving forward and back, a little hokey pokey, little quick, light movement. And notice, and you can see just how much more availability in that whole upper quarter is available. Not just the clavicle, but your ribs. It's beautiful to watch. Oh, good. Let it all go and lie on your back a moment. Release your head from your pillow if you want. I just want to give a special shout out for you letting me spotlight, because a lot of times we have a tendency to think we're doing what I'm asking. And for sure, there are a lot of times when I can get discombobulated in my own language and may not be as clear. And rest assured, there are times in this level of communication where you think you're doing what I'm asking. And and like you, I was not doing what I was being asked to do. I thought I was. So when we videotape each other like this and we help kind of clarify and can see the movement, it gives us another possibility. So thank you for those who are letting me do that. And once again, come to lie on your side and for some of you, you might want to put that raised floor above your head. Mhm. So you're coming back. We're still lying on the right side. The cushion is above the head, and then your neck pillow is under that, and then you're lying there. So it's there if you need it. If you don't, it's fine. And again, you get a chance to kind of check your position out here. And we're always trying to find that Goldilocks position in side lying. So you adjust the angle of the distance of how your feet are from your sit bones, because we want a place where the pelvis can tip, tilt, and move. So it doesn't feel so locked out. Now, go ahead and to your capacity, right? Let's just see if this is available. If you go ahead and take that left hand and bring it so that the left hand is somewhere over your head. Mhm. Let's just see what that's like. And then you come back down again. Mhm. Now, for some people, when they lift the hand over the head, they can easily lift this hand straight up towards the ceiling and then put it on their head. That's a way to do that. All right. But there are some of you that that may be an impingement and not as available. So I want to give you something else. What if you begin to take that left hand and let the left hand stroke up the center of your chest, your torso, through your throat, through your face, through your midpoint of your eyes and over your head. And now you can put your hand over your head. And while you're there, now you can begin to lengthen the lollipop as though that I could slide the palm. I'm pulling your fingers along and I'm sliding that arm long over your head. And then I let it come back. And a lot of times when we first do this, it's easy for the elbow to want to bend very quickly. So we want the elbow to be passive and we want the elbow to be long. So let's try again. Bring your hand up above your head. Extend the arm long, the elbow is relatively straight, and from there, begin to glide the hand away. And you can start to feel that the shoulder blade, the ball of the lollipop is pulling the shoulder blade up, and then keeping your elbow relatively straight, the lollipop pushes the shoulder blade down. And of course, this has a impact on the pelvis, doesn't it? Some of you might feel the pelvis shrug up or the pelvis tip away, like shrug towards the head or tip away towards the feet. Mhm. All right. Now, when you start to bring your head down to your pelvis, rather than just trying to lift it very, very high and up to the ceiling, bring it down the front of your face and your chest, and then go to the pelvis. Nice. And a couple times with your hand on the pelvis, can you begin to shrug that left shoulder in the direction of your ear? So you shrug it up a couple of times and then you return it as though that the shoulder falls into the neck. You're decreasing that space between the neck. That's right. Hmm. Up and down. Elbows relatively straight. Hmm. Okay. All right. And now bring the hand over the head again. And this time, allow the palm to be facing the ceiling, or the knuckles or the back of the hand is on your floor, either your raised floor or the true floor. And a couple of times like this, can you begin to lengthen the arm and lengthen the lollipop? Hmm. Good. Pause. let your hand come a little closer to your head so that your elbow bends. Actually bend the elbow this time. Keep the elbow bent. And a couple of times now raise your shoulder towards your ear and then lower it. Raise and lower, raise and lower. With your hand close to your head, the elbow is bent. That's right. Raise and lower. Good. Feel the direction of the pelvis is very different. Those inner thighs aren't as slidey or glidey. All right. And then let that go and let your arm extend out over your head again. And try a couple times letting your lollipop grow long and see if that is more amenable to allowing the arm to be carried long, as though that the innermost aspect of your armpit starts to lift. A couple of times. There you go. Good. And then release that. Bring your hand down. And now let your shoulder kind of jiggle and wiggle, oscillate forward and back, and see if that's any different. See how that little quick oscillation, this is something that we did the first lesson in the series. A little quick oscillation helps to inhibit tone even further, but it also helps to start to strengthen and call forward something called motor control of how we reverse the motion forward and back, so that it doesn't get caught up in the neck. It doesn't get caught in the throat. It doesn't get caught in the breastbone or the ribs. Good. Now let it go and roll on your back. And there is no doubt in my mind that you're starting to experience changes throughout that entire side that we've been oscillating and moving. Maybe even the side of your face. Maybe even your rate of respiration has started to shift and change and become more full and available on that side. Now come to lie on the right side again with your head cushion above your head. And we're going to do something a little different. Make your adjustments of the neck, the head. You might find that the neck is having more pleasure laying on its side. All right. And now allow your hand to be placed over your head again. Find a good place that feels comfortable, and it should just feel, that feels much easier to do. Now begin to, instead of lengthening your hand long, what we're going to do is I want you to move the whole hand and arm forward, like in front of you, and then return to it's over your head again. And then let the hand pass through the middle and move behind you a little bit. Ooh, not too much. Be careful. All right. And then, so you're going to be moving the hand forward and back. So it's just this arc in front of your face and behind your head, somewhere that's comfortable for you. Okay. And you can find that there's a little bit of a bind when it starts to go back, isn't there? Mhm. The next time you find your hand over your head, stay there. Now, we're going to start to move our torso in harmony with the hand that's moving forward. So another way of saying that is as the hands and arm starts to move forward, let let the side of the head and the torso start to fold down in the direction of the knees. And then as the to bring the hand back up over our head and behind us, begin to let the torso unfold as though that you would get long in front. So the hand gliding forward towards the direction of the knees, folding in the torso. Mhm. And you can feel how your back rounds, the tailbone tucks. And for some of you, as the hand moves back and the torso opens up, the tailbone untucks. So it's as though that the torso is carrying the lollipop back and forth because the torso is connected to the shoulder blade is connected to the lollipop. Good. All right. And then the next time you find yourself with your hand above your head, pause. And let's see if that had any impact, if you will, on the movement of the hand only. So we're going to keep the torso still and let that arm move forward and back and see if that's more available, especially the back part. There you go. And especially if you were to carry your head back with as the hand glides back in the torso. So we're not tilting the chin back at all, Gail. We're just sliding our ear like we've done all along your pad. Good. That's right. And could the tailbone tuck a little bit more as that hand and the head slide back? It's a very unusual connection. So it's not really an arching of the back at all. Yes. All right. Good. Now, when you bring your hand down, instead of bringing it down the front, let it come down the back of the head and the back of the neck and stroking down and putting your hand on your pelvis. Just another way to get that arm down. hmm Resting on your pelvis. And a couple of times letting your shoulder girdle oscillate forward and back, forward and back, forward and back, forward and back. And then all of a sudden you can get a little rhythm and a little bit of speed. That's right, forward and back. Letting that oscillation carry you into your pelvis, even into a little movement of your inner thighs. Good. Now let that go and lie on your back. Now you can start to compare the two sides in a little bit of a different way. So if I have you lift the shoulder forward towards the ceiling and then return, that's the same thing we've been doing all along, isn't it? You keep your hand on the floor and just lift your shoulder forward towards the ceiling. Feel your capacity to how far you can raise that shoulder forward, what it does with the head. Does it roll it? Does it hang it back? All right. And then compare that to your right side, the shoulder moving from the floor. It may feel like One side is heavier. One side feels a little clunky. Doesn't quite include the smoothness and the ease. Hmm. Okay, let that go. And one last time, let's come to lie on your side, left side again, right side again, sorry, right side down. And your hand draped across your pelvis, fingers hanging off the edge of your pelvis. Mhm. And so we have definitely been moving the shoulder forward and back. You can try that a couple of times, right? In that direction. There's a middle point as you move forward and back. Mhm. Pause in the middle. And then now up and down, up in the direction of the ear and down in the direction of your pelvis. Mhm. So one of the things that we do in the Feldenkrais lesson is we connect the dots, we connect points. So what if I begin to ask you to connecting the forward and the up and the back and the down and the forward as though that you are making a circle, as though the shoulder is stirring soup. And relatively, you're keeping your hand in and draped over your pelvis. So there's not a lot. There you go. Because if the hand stays in place, guess what? You have to move more proximal. That's right, Leslie. That's right. There's a difference in there. And then could you reverse that motion so that you're coming up towards the head, forward and down? And there's one of those that feel much more pleasurable for you. And since when can the tailbone assist in tucking or the thighs sliding back and the tailbone tucking? Hmm, good. And let that go. Now let's see what your capacity is if you let that left hand glide off your pelvis and come to the floor behind you. See if that's just more doable for some of you. If not, put your little pillow there. Good. Now, from that position right there, could you very clearly begin to find a small circle of connecting those dots again of the forward and up to the ear and back and down towards the feet and then forward. So you're drawing, stirring soup with that shoulder from a different position. That's right. And feel how the torso, the belly wants to help you with that movement. And that every time you find the shoulder moving back and down, so too do you feel the pelvis wanting to tuck the tailbone and glide the thigh, top thigh back. All right, good. And if it's so much in your pleasure, you want to do the opposite direction, you can. If not, just draw your hand back onto your pelvis and let that go. Mm. Now, let your hand be out in front of you. And let's just see, I'm just curious if you glide your hand, lengthen your hand out in front of you, if that just feels like it's just even easier. It's almost that the hand, when you go to reach, as though that the shoulder comes closer to your breastbone. It's an odd thing. Keep your hand on the floor if you can. I get it, Gail. You're on a table. I got it. There you go. Mhm. One of the things about this lesson is as you glide the top hand and arm forward and reaching, you also are mobilizing and doing something to the shoulder on the downside, aren't you? Yeah, you're starting to change the collarbone's ability to take compression. And maybe sleeping on your side becomes more pleasurable. Okay, good. Let that all go. Thank you. Thank you. You can roll on your back for just a moment. We know that as you take this moment of rest, we know that the nervous system actually has the opportunity to integrate something here. That this movement of the cardinal line of the arm, the lollipop, the ball moving in the socket then connecting to the collarbone, allowing the movement at the very core of the collarbone to connect to that vertical line, freeing up the shoulder girdles that are needed for reaching, walking, balance, driving, climbing, speaking, freeing the throat, freeing the upper ribs so that your air reaches in places that it has not been able to get before. Passively filling, expanding. Good. Now, let's take your 5 cardinal lines, roll to your side, and you'll make this transition from lying to sitting to standing for just a moment. And as you take your time to make that transition, and you're just standing there, how your how your arms are hanging, your lollipops are hanging, might be a little different on one side versus the other. In fact, one arm may feel longer than the other, or the blade may feel like it's perched on your back a little differently. And very slowly, I want you to think about rolling your head. Rolling your head, feeling how that reaches into your throat and your breastbone in a very different way. And as you're rolling the head, if you could keep the torso a little more still, Martin, and let the head roll. You'll feel how the back of the head and the throat, there, that's a little different kind of movement that reaches the clavicles, that allow the clavicle to change their shapes. There. You want to put your hands at the root of your throat and feel how the clavicle moves, how the muscle pops out. It's normal. We've not really sensed or touched ourselves in this way. Your expression is here. Who you are is here. And then now release your hands from your throat and bring them to above your shoulders, resting, elbows hanging low. And see what it's like in your capacity to raise that left arm up to the ceiling now. That's very different, Heather. Good. And then the right some of you, you're starting to get this sense of shifting your lower half or your center of mass over one foot as the hand goes up. Very good. All right. Now go ahead and walk around and allow yourself to come back to a chair, to your table, and rest. If you're done, just go ahead and sign off. You'll hear any comments or questions in the replay. Good. All right.
Okay.
And as always, we'll take a little time to answer some questions or, to share your experience. As one of my teachers would say, good, bad, or indifferent. Always like that. All right. Yes, Heather.
My hand just touched the ceiling and it hadn't before. It surprised me. Yeah. So you had noticed something, but I'll look at the replay, but what did you notice? What?
The smoothness of the hand. So it was, you see this distance, like you see the board behind me, right?
Yeah.
Watch this. Watch this. It's like the board disappears. If the board is disappearing, right? Here's my lollipop. It just naturally extends. And
Good.
this gap closes.
I look forward to doing it on the other side because that's my problematic side. So that.
Well, one of the good things that I got from Feldenkrais is when he said, if you have a problem, you have a problem for life, right? So the more dysfunctional side can learn from the non-dysfunctional side, right?
Yeah.
And what happens is we forget that if you are problematic, I'm going to enlarge my screen. Thank you. I think I'm big, right?
Yep.
So if I have a hard time allowing this movement, not just through the shoulder blade or through the ribs and this collarbone, the collarbone's going to follow its signal down here. So if this is held down, then it gets very hard to allow this motion to happen right through here. And how could then the arm get a little, it's not just the arm getting closer to the head, it's like the collarbone moving into the arm. Yeah, that's a big deal. The same thing happens down in the pelvis and gait, but that lateral translation, because when you lie on your right side and you're doing all these movements, blah, 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 you are allowing the movement here of the collarbone of your more dysfunctional side or problematic side to have a chance to get a healing.
Wow.
It's a good thing to do something where that area is kind of sandwiched, and then it can learn how to move differently.
Great.
It's quite beautiful.
Great. Perfect. Thank you.
Yes, Miss Ellen.
Yes, I was just, Heather said it. I feel like right now I want to turn to the other side and do everything on the other side. So is that what's kind of recommended? What your idea is?
Right. There are lessons that Feldenkrais leaves us intentionally in this state of lopsidedness, craving for that same kind of quality of ease and movement on the other side. We'd
Uh-huh.
like to crave it, we want it. It's our need to have a sense of balance, right? To bring us back into homeostasis and balance. And I want this for you as much as I want it over here, that kind
Right.
of. And he invites us to intentionally, can you just sit with that? Or do you notice, does it make you so anxious that I've got to get in there and make some change? How long can you hang out with these two changes that one seems big and one seems small, right? In our image, so you learn something from the image. By all means, if you want to lay down and do the lesson on the other side, go ahead. But notice the tenderness and the quality and care that we moved through. You want to use that kind of compassion and care to the other side as well. So just don't blow past it, is what I want to say. Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Mhm. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Carol, can I just say something?
Yes.
Yeah, it was a really nice lesson. I hope I will be able to express what I want to say, but I think for me it was a big aha moment.
Mhm.
I think it was to protect my SI joint by tucking under it. When we were tucking, I think I was a tendency to always overarch. So by tucking, like it was, feels it was so much, give me so much safety. So much safe. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
yeah, that was, I don't know, it's hard to express, but it was a very nice lesson. Very nice. I quite enjoy it. And my shoulder is very happy. And now I feel like, in the Roman athletic, the one who throw the javelin, I feel my like a big muscles, and the other one is just a skinny one. Yeah, interesting to see
Yeah. Yeah.
differences. But
I'm-
thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I'm glad you brought up the pelvis and the SI joint and that sense of safety. And when I did this lesson as a young Feldenkrais practitioner, and just even in my training program, I had a tendency to overarch, and I had a lot of chronic back pain and a lot of chronic SI pain, and just a lot of trauma to that area. And I was sure, that as my shoulder blade moves back, especially, whether it was at my side or here, or even if it was over my head, I had a tendency to allow my tailbone to present itself. And I really had to pay attention to the inside seams of my thighs, because as the inside seams of the thighs, that top thigh gets a little shorter, it causes almost a scooping of one side of the pelvis, and it restores. I know for some of you this you may not even understand what I'm saying, but some of you will. It restores the sacrum to move on its oblique axis once again, which is why people have such really, ooh, ow, it gets me right there at that SI joint or that PSI, or I feel it right there. It gets caught, boom. And what happens is it's this synchronicity of the inner thigh retracting, a little tuck. You feel the action of the abdominals. When you watch the video again, you'll see Gail being able to use her abdominals in such a way that they just spontaneously carry her back. And so that goes for any time the shoulder blade is going back. Even if I was reaching back behind me, it should be tucking. I want to say should. It's a big thing to say should, but the availability of it to tuck is what's going to help round and protect us and protect our head should we be falling backwards. because it's a reflex. But the reflex won't be activated if the tailbone is always untucking. We want it to present itself when we're wiping our butt, right? If our hand goes behind and we are wiping our butt, we want to be able to differentiate and have that pelvis move right. There you go. But that's the thigh moving forward, not back. Next time you're on the toilet, do a toilet check. Wiping the butt, that thigh moves forward and the tailbone, the anus. And in this lesson, it's kind of funny because Feldenkrais says, present your anus. Yeah, present the anus. But the same thing is true. Then retract the anus underneath you as you retract the pelvis. It's in walking, standing on one leg, allowing the sacrum to move around the oblique axis. So, great. Thank you for letting me say that. It was just such a revolution and evolution for me in changing my thinking, and has healed so many people that I work on. That's
Thank you so much. I think
it's great.
yeah, I think it was a great help for me. Yeah,
Great.
very much appreciated.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Okay. Well, that's tonight's lesson, and I'll put it up and it'll be on the replay for you. Okay. All right. Good evening.
Thank you.
And have a great day wherever you're at. Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Carol.
Thank you so much.